This episode of Homemade was previously recorded in front of a live stream audience who asked questions and cook along during the show. If you love cooking and want to join us in the kitchen, visit homemadecooking.com to register for free live classes. Now, let's get cooking. What is going on? Hello, everybody. We have Chef Kat, who is handling everything in the chat. Chef, how are you today?
I'm so good.
Yeah?
I am really enjoying the cold weather.
Me too. I know. This is when it starts to turn of the guard and all the recipes start to change. It just starts to get cozy.
Oh, I love
Make
the
a
cozy
fire.
food.
Ugh, I love it too. And Kat, she grew up in Hawaii, which a lot of our regulars know. So she also grew up right on the ocean with seafood, every day.
Pretty much, if I wanted to.
So, for me, it's so healthy. It's so fast. It's so simple. We have to eat more fish. So today we are making this incredible, we're calling it kind of crispy salmon, but it's really salmon en croûte. So it's salmon wrapped in puff pastry. What makes it awesome is you get this really crispy outside of the puff pastry, but because the salmon's inside, it steams. It stays incredibly succulent, incredibly moist. This is one of those showstoppers if you're having company over, but honestly, you can rock this out on an easy weekday night. So let's get started. It's got a couple of basic steps, but there's some tricky parts. So we'll dive in. First step is we're gonna kind of make the filling to the salmon en croûte, to this kind of filled crispy salmon. So first step is I have a pan, and if you're cooking along, grab a skillet, medium-sized skillet, and add a good amount of olive oil. I'm gonna add 2-3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're on some high heat there. I'm gonna take it off a little bit. Whenever it smokes that much, you don't need that much smoke, so just take it off the heat. And then I'm gonna slice some potatoes really, really thin. Just like this. So back on the heat we go. And I just take these puppies. You don't have to do anything except for lay them in. And try and keep it to just one layer. I also like to kind of go around the clock. A lot of our regulars who cook with us know I love doing that, so I know which potato is the first one I laid in, which is right here. So I go around the clock. I know this is the first one I'm gonna flip. And then I can kind of just go from there. All right, little salt, little pepper. Got these potatoes going. Now, if you are cooking along, let's preheat your oven. So 400 degrees, I've got my little tabletop oven here. 400 degrees is all you need Fahrenheit. And potatoes are cooking, ovens are warming. So I'm just literally going around the clock. You can use tongs, you can use a little, now if you get a little brown like that, not the end of the world, but that's not really the goal. The goal is just to make them toothsome. All right, so potatoes are cooking. We're now gonna get stuff ready for this cream chard. Now, so we start with some shallots. All right, this was one shallot. We just cut it in half. And then for a shallot, it's just like an onion. So you just kind of cut down into little strips, right? And then I'm gonna use the chef knife here, this awkward angle. Little strips, and then this into little bits. And then I've got a little bit of garlic. And by a little bit, I've got 3 cloves. That's a lot of garlic for this amount of greens. But I love garlic and greens. I absolutely love it. So whenever you see any recipe that's like spinach or kale, double down on the garlic. Trust me, greens need them. They love them. Gather this all up. And at this point, the potatoes should be, I said the word toothsome. They should be tender. So grab a little knife, poke it in, and if it easily comes out, which this does, these are good to go. So what I'm literally gonna do is just grab a plate and remove these potatoes. And again, a little crispy is fine, but that's not the goal. Pick up that garlic and shallots, and in we go. There's still some leftover oil from those potatoes. So those just go right in.
Chef, we can also add butter to that too.
Am I supposed to add butter to that?
Yes.
That's Kat's way of saying, don't go more oil, go butter, which I love. All right, I'm gonna add a pat of butter. I'm gonna save a little bit of this because I used a little bit of the oil. I have an idea for this later. So a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil. Doesn't really matter, but let's be real. Butter's butter. While this mixture is kind of just lightly caramelizing on the pan, which smells so freaking good, we're gonna break down some chard. The way I handle chard is I kind of just hold it up by the stem and I just strip it down. So you get the leaves like this and the stem comes out nice and clean. So I kind of hold it upside down, pinch the top, and strip it off. All right, so I'm just kind of chopping up this chard. And as I chop, I'm noticing that my garlic and my shallots are kind of just where I want them. So instead of just chopping it all, just start adding it, because we want this to start to wilt anyways. So we're adding a handful there, gather up a little bit more here, and I'm just kind of rolling it and chopping it. So everyone in the pool. And by the way, no need to dry it. Like we wash this and it's still a little wet, totally fine. It's amazing how much they just cook down to nothing, right? So we mix that up. This is a great time for a little salt, a little bit of pep. So I'm gonna blast the heat at this point to about an 8 out of 10. So you're almost gonna start to hear it fry, all right? Very normal. And then if you have some white wine or some vermouth, we've got a little vermouth, give it a little splash. That's just gonna steam it, but also sweeten it, right? And deglaze the bottom of the pan. Smells incredible. And then I want you to kill the heat. So turn it off, and we call for adding a little bit of cream cheese. And I kind of do this in little bits like this. So I take it off the heat and then add little bits of cream cheese. Cream cheese has that tang that is just, normal cream, those types of things just don't have. And if we left the heat on and cooked the cream cheese, eventually the cream cheese would split. It would just kind of break. I'm sure that's happened to you before. Totally normal. So we just let the residual heat of the pan kind of melt everything. Check this out. You guys can see the cream cheese is just about melted. Look at that. Look at the texture of that. I mean, crazy. And if this wasn't enough, a nice handful of Parmesan cheese right over the top. That's just going to add a little bit of saltiness, a little bit of savoriness. And you just kind of beat that Parmesan and that cream cheese in, and you are left with just the most delicious. I mean, look at that. Insane. Grab a little lemon, roll on it, cut it in half. You only need about half. And in we go. And that just kind of brightens everything. All right, so chard is done. It's hanging on the side right here, just kind of cooling down. So I just grab, to build this, a piece of parchment. Put it on my cutting board. The puff has been in the fridge, so Kat's gonna go grab that. Puff, meaning puff pastry, is one of those things that for this recipe and all recipes, I wouldn't make it. Even though we're called homemade, there's certain things. We put out an article last year, what I would buy and what I wouldn't buy homemade. I would almost always buy puff pastry because it's really hard to make. You have to laminate the dough, fold it over the butter, laminate it a million times over until you get these layers. And at this point, they just have it down pat. So it's really easy to buy. So we took off the dough from the actual packaging and kind of unfolded it. And it always comes with like these 4 squares, no problem. I'm just gonna cut it in half. And we're gonna kind of make these individual pockets. Really, really easy. You don't need any extra flour because the parchment's there. It's gonna kind of help release. So step 1 is you just wanna make sure everything is ready to go. The one thing I wanna get is an egg. And I'm just gonna, in a separate bowl, beat this egg. And this is obviously just gonna help glue it together, but also give it some shine. And we start with the potato. So I'm just gonna grab the potato and we're gonna lay this down just on the base. Don't these look great? So now I grab just this perfect portion of salmon And I just kind of lay it right on top of the potatoes. All right, so now we get into that cream spinach mixture, and you just kind of grab a spoonful. And don't you dare be shy. And you just kind of paint this mixture. Oop, there we go. And I don't want to see any bits of salmon. I just want to go full board cream spinach. I can smell the lemon. I can smell the Parmesan. It just works. And then you just pick up this puff and you can kind of give it a little bit of a stretch, right? And like a ravioli, you kind of want to press it and really squeeze out the air. Just like this. Really squeeze it out. Shape it too, to where you want it. So I'll do it again here. Pull over the top and really shape this. You have this one moment, right? Once you bake it, it's not gonna look anything like you want it. You're kind of out of control. So this is where one moment to really get all that air out. The air, you know, obviously it just makes it less crispy because it just has pockets. So you really want to just kind of surround the salmon like that. Just be a little bed for the salmon. And then I just kind of trim a little bit of the excess, but you don't need to. But I like to do that. I'm a chef. Presentation matters to me. And this is totally for reinforcement, but I also think it looks really nice, is just to use the back of your fork and just give it a little bit of a pleat, right? Just give it a little bit of a press. And just really press the dough, the two layers into each other. And this is where, you know, I always say with cooking, you can sit here for hours making sure this looks perfect, like the perfect pie crust. But we really don't want perfect. We want homemade. We want something that looks like you made it. Each one's individual. So if one's a little bigger, if one's a little smaller, don't worry about it. So now I did this on parchment so I can kind of transfer the parchment over. And this is when you want to paint it. So you have that egg wash ready to go. And this is what's going to keep it so nice and golden brown. Now, it's really tempting to just glob on all that egg, but you want to kind of shake off most of the egg and then just do a nice light layer. All right, those are painted. They look awesome. And then just to allow it some space to breathe, we just put a little slits in it. And when you do it, you really don't want to carve through it. It's just a light little touch. See how you can kind of see and poke in, and if you need to kind of re-go. But see how it kind of just opens up like that? So I'm really just barely dragging my knife through it. Cool? So, while those are baking, although those we're gonna just put, actually we'll put those in our other oven here. We thought it would be fun, ladies and gentlemen, introducing our sidekick today, king crab legs. These come to you steamed, ready to go. You can steam them yourself just to kind of take the chill off. You can pop them in the oven for about 5 minutes just to take the chill off. And then honestly, there's so many ways to go about this, but just bringing a bowl of this to the table, to me, represents something special. You know, this is not an average night at your house. This is something different, something just, whoa. I'm sure when you saw me drag these out, it's like, wow. What you do is you literally just kind of pick them up and you take kitchen shears. So you want to kind of just nestle your shears between those two things. And you can just tell the quality of this because of how easy it is to cut through. Sometimes they're muddy, they're difficult to get through. You can cut through the joint here too. And you just open this up, and what you're left with is, look at that. Just pure, sweet, perfect crab meat. You can cut it if you want, but I just want like a nice, big, gorgeous pile. That looks awesome. Oh, I'm excited about that. I'm just gonna keep cutting these open because they're a little bit addicting to do. It's just kind of fun. But another really fun thing to do is to open them up on one side open them up on the other side. Right, so what you're left with is kind of two little boats, like this. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm gonna make a little space here. And then you just grab a knife and you just kind of cut that king crab just right down the center, and you put it back in the boat, like this. And then you make some unbelievable garlic butter with tarragon or parsley or a little bit of mustard or Worcestershire, and you just slather these with butter, and then you put them in the fridge, and you don't touch them until company comes over. You turn on the broiler, and you just have a sheet pan of these gorgeous handheld king crab legs, and you just broil these for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just so the butter is melted. There's just a little bit of chill taken off the crab legs themselves, and you serve these. You can serve them at room temp or piping hot. People lose their minds over this. Lose their minds. It is the easiest holiday appetizer. As a chef, I have served it so many times, and people are like, what did you do? And I'm like, it is not me. It is the crab. It is just the best quality crab, and people just forget that king crab is just, there's a reason why it's called the king. All right, got a little platter here. So this is what it looks like out of the oven. You guys ready? I said I kind of wanted to hug the line, but look at this, of burnt. But that's what I look. I like it really golden. I wish this side kind of got to the same level, but good enough for me. Cut it kind of right where the slit is, kind of on the bias. I mean, if that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Potato, cream spinach, perfectly cooked salmon. So I just start kind of plattering this up. Next up, I mean, not in the recipe, a little indulgent, but we've got it. We just opened it up. These gorgeous, lumpy, just incredibly sweet king crab. Just kind of over the top. And then I've got these greens. These are just peppery. You can add a little bit of lemon over the top of them, just on the board like this. Just a little bit, right? Just kind of toss them through like a little impromptu salad, but keep them really crispy, really light. Just kind of let that shower. It doesn't get much better than that. Crazy beautiful. But yeah, I want the cream spinach, I want the layers, I want the potato. Just doing a little bit of the king crab right on top. It's not a lot of words that can describe that what just went down in my mouth. I mean, buttery, melts on your tongue, pure indulgence. I mean, it all works. The lemon, the cream greens are stunning. You would never think to just pile those on top of a beautiful Atlantic salmon. The crust just keeps everything so succulent. This is just a better view. I mean, you can kind of just see how flaky the fish got. It's perfectly cooked. We tested this to the nines to make sure. And it is awesome. Oh, killer. Yeah, that's going back on there because this team is about to devour this. And guys, we'll catch you tomorrow. Happy cooking. Take care, everybody. Hey there, I'm Joel Gamoran. I'm the head chef and founder of Homemade. And we launched Homemade with the idea that we want to bring cooking and the kitchen to the world. So if you love cooking and want to join us in one of our free live stream cooking classes, head to our website, homemadecooking.com. That's homemadecooking.com to register today. Now, sit back, relax, watch a little bit more cooking maybe, and enjoy the rest of your flight.